Hello and welcome back to another episode of Track Talk. Today we are joined by not one but two people. We are joined by Sheldon and his fiancée Olivia. How you doing, guys?
Oh, we're doing pretty good.
Dude, that's weird to hear, fiance.
Yeah.
It's weird
Yeah,
to hear.
yeah. So for those who don't know, we'll be talking about the one review, or the video title is "I Proposed to My Girlfriend Using Line Rider," which is a very different track that we have not seen before in the Line Rider sphere. I believe this is the first kind of proposal-esque track. So I guess, yeah, I mean, obviously, congratulations to you both. But I mean, let's
Thanks.
get into the history of this track. When did you first get the idea for this?
Okay, so it was like last year, and I started a track synced. I think it was in like November or December. I started a track synced to "The Wonder of You," the song, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And I was like, I've always wanted to. I thought I was going to make it for like a Valentine's present for Olivia, and then I like started it, and I got a little bit into it, and I was like, "Oh." He kind of like pauses at the end of the curve, so I like drew a little picture of us dancing at prom, and I thought it'd be cool. And I sent it to Rabbit, and I was like sort of talking to him about it or whatever. And then he started riding back down the line. I'm like, oh well, I could do some other pictures from our relationship too. And I started working on it, and then I got to the hammock scene, and that took like probably 7 hours to draw because I did each leave individually.
Yeah,
And then I got to the duck scene, and at that point, like I left it on the back burner for a couple months because I'm like, wow, this proposal is a ways away.
I should probably jump in. This was before copy and paste. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was before copy and paste. So even
Yeah.
if I wanted to reposition it, I had to like erase it and redraw it.
Yeah, that's kind of terrible. So yeah, when I watched this track this morning, I mean, I'll say, like, I'll admit it, this track did make me cry a bit. Like, it was probably the sweetest thing I've ever seen anyone do in Line Rider. And so yeah, I'd probably ask you next, Olivia. How did this track make you feel? I mean, obviously, like, we could see, from a few seconds in, like, what was your first initial reaction a few seconds in after watching this?
Yeah. Well, I guess at first I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I recognized the song right away because that's one that's special to both of us. Um, but I think I started to tear up whenever I saw the maybe the first drawing in the track, just because I kind of got the idea of where he was going with it, and I'm super sentimental, so I think that for me it really was like following the journey and just watching like all these things that we've been through together.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's this moment, I think, like, pretty early on in the track where you can see, like, you're starting to, like, tear up. Like, did you have any inclination where
Yeah.
the track was going to go? Like, the progression of time kind of theme?
Yeah, I started to suspect what was going on pretty early on, I think.
Yeah, like, kind of, like, translates a little. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, this track was, obviously, I think it's one of the first tracks I've seen that's like super technical that also manages to encapsulate like a lot of emotion. So I guess at this point we might as well bring the track up on the screen so we can talk about it in a little bit more detail.
Okay, so here's the track. So
So yeah, it's easy to like not really pay that much attention to the manuals actually, because obviously the first time you see
yeah,
it, like you're watching Olivia and you in the bottom right hand corner and in the monuments. So it's kind of like a huge emotional like interplay, but the actual technical aspects of this track are very, very advanced, even compared with the kind of amazing manual tracks we've seen this year from people like iPie and Ollie and Toivo, obviously. So, yeah, what kind of approach did you have to this? Because it's very slow as well.
so yeah, that was part of it. Like I intentionally did very slow so I could really make each monument stand out, and I tried to place them strategically so that the monument only showed the once, and it showed in chronological order, so I didn't spoil later monuments, and also try to make it have a lot of lag time on the screen. So, for example, for this one, I would have it sort of like go to. I use this theme a lot where I sort of let it go to a stop and then start like recycle the curve, for example, so that I could give it as much screen time as possible. And I did a lot of like curve recycling, just to sort of like stick with the theme. And I sort of did that curly Q early on, and I liked how it looked, so I did a bunch of those throughout the track. So this one was a particularly tricky one. So like during the playback, I had to make it so that the duck scene up top didn't show, because I added that in later. And this scene is Olivia texted me after like we had like hung out that day, saying that we should be a couple at that point, and that was really sweet of her because I had already asked her like 3 times and got rejected, so I probably wasn't going to do it again. Yeah.
So you didn't.
It was truly tragic.
You didn't quit easily.
I did. I didn't give up, but I mean, I did give up at that point. But
she took pity on you. Is that right, Olivia?
She brought my hopes up.
Not quite, but I had a change of heart, I guess.
Yeah, she changed her mind. So shortly after our first date, when we first started dating on the second, this was I took her out on her birthday, I believe, and we went to this place that we like and I set up a hammock for her, and I got her a tapestry. So that's the tapestry behind the hammock, and these 2 trees, they're pretty significant to us because we always hung out there.
Lovely.
Place in the park. Oh yeah, this is where I drew each leaf individually. So it took absolute ages, but my kind of tactic to do it is I'd start from the center point, go out, and then draw each one so that it radiates from the center, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like kind of the spot.
So it was a very time consuming process, but I wasn't intending on doing any more trees because of how long that took. Yeah. And in this scene, the duck scene, we always loved ducks early on. We always like to visit the duck pond, and this scene was, it's special, but it's not like one particular event. It's just that we always loved going to see the ducks and feeding them.
Sure.
Then we go to here. This is like a little bit longer into our relationship. My grandparents live next to some neighbors that have like miniature donkeys, and Olivia really loved the donkeys. And it also sort of captures that I always like to take pictures of all of our things that we do, and I try to make like collages each month, like depicting the things that we do. Nice. So, and then we went to this one. This one's I let this show again because we went to prom a second time. So that was like an intentional like re-showing of that monument.
Uh-huh.
And then this sort of like is it's symbolic. So this is like a big jump. So like, yeah, we graduated high school. So I like made, and it also synced with the music. So that was cool.
Yeah. It's very elegantly done as well. Like I haven't, like if you go back to the point where where Bosch actually kind of flips onto that line, it's like so smooth. I think I've rarely seen that done with that level of skill and fluidity. But it looks like...
this was this was probably the least clean curly Q I made in the track, and I was like, well, whatever. I needed that big jump, but this was done with multi-lining before we had like the huge multi-pliers.
Yeah.
And I sort of hid them with the curly Q, and then he just jumped up and like stopped at the right exact time, and then balanced out on the manual.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, there's actually very few stabilizers at the top. It's very nice.
And then this scene with the prominent building from the university we attended, that's the Ayers Hall.
Yep, and that particular sinking part back towards the left, where the 2 lines are over each other, that's a particularly enjoyable sink. Like the way you managed to make it kind of bounce. If you go back to the left where the line curves over the line underneath it, like to the left-hand side of that building. Yeah, like right about there. Like that little section here is pretty amazing, to be honest.
With like, this little hop right here, but yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Oh, and then I cheekily hit a line within my foot.
Oh.
No one ever noticed.
Stabilizes it for fakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was my first like actual integration within the track, and I was pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, it's nice.
and then recycling it like by doing each individual frame. So in the playback, there's actually an Easter egg right here. You can't see this because it's a separate version of the track, but I edited it so that I'm wearing a crown and we're holding hands because, you know, in the song it says, "You touch my hand and I'm a king."
Yeah, that was a nice touch. I think that happens. Does that happen with any of the other monuments, or is it just this one?
So there was another change, and that's coming up right here. So he actually falls through this. I had to like get this just right so that none of the lines touched him when he fell through, but
Yeah,
I managed to get it. And then pops through this line. So this is the scene where we adopted a cat. It was kind of an impulsive decision. And then see, it goes out of frame. But in the recording, this actually goes out of frame, like this scene right here. Yep. And then he recycles it, and it's sort of symbolic because we like went back to the pet store and adopted him. But in the actual playback, you know, it's two versions of the track, so it's edited so you can see that we're like leaving the pet store with the cat. And then this is sort of a new thing I started out. Like I would like do manuals that were just like perfectly balanced and then do like a little stutter as like a sync on a note. And I thought it was just an interesting technique that's never really been done.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that later on in the track as well, which is quite nice.
And then, yeah, I sort of did that again here, but it was like a stutter into fakie manual. So,
yeah.
And then another integration. And here's where things get kind of tricky technically. This was really cool because I did one leave and I just copied it and pasted it, and this made this tree take like a fraction of the time as the first tree.
Yeah, I remember this being made.
And this set of leaves is sort of it's like a product of the scaling that Noah added to the LRA, so I could just scale it vertically so that they looked like they were on the ground.
Yeah, which is awesome. Thank you very much for this, Noah. You make these.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. LRA. Plug this away. Always plug the superior version, TM. And this is where things start to pick up. This is where I'm starting to do no-row, hashtag no-row November.
Yep, I believe it was even November at the time. Very, very appropriate.
And here's some more no-row into integration. This pop was accidental, and I was like, got to keep it. It was perfect.
Yeah, that was a nice.
And then more hashtag no-row November. And then this is our when I got her some sunflowers, and it was my phone background for the longest time because it was such a pretty picture. And then an upside down manual. And some of the more intricate integration section. I was finally happy to do a granule around one of those curly cues.
Yeah, that was a really nice part of the track, honestly.
Had to be done. They had a photo booth type thing at Nick and Caroline's wedding, and we found some props, and we thought we made a cool little picture. That was our profile picture for a while too.
Very nice.
And then the Two Door Cinema Club concert, I got to see them live. Fun fact, Ocean Blue, my track, is Sync to Sun by Two Door Cinema Club. And it was epic seeing them live.
That's awesome.
Oh, here's another one of those syncing moments with the just like stutter within the same type of manual.
Sure, yeah. This section I remember being very intricate.
Oh yeah, I redid this one because I wanted to be just right, and then this one he sort of like floats down because I kept him so far away from the. This is probably the most intricate integration throughout the whole track. This one was the first sort of I believe in Bug Thief he used a night mode, artificial night mode transition, but I did a night mode transition for this, and it was this is the eclipse, so I did it in night mode so that it could show like it was dark outside. It kind of triggers me, but these trees don't go on forever, and there's like not a really good way to
I think they're effective for what they did.
I think so too.
And then this one, I kind of went overboard. I went really hard on this like integration section and like really jerked Bosch around, but I wanted to go all out just this once. Yeah. And then Christmas. This was last year. But as you can tell, I mean, it's sort of like a Easter egg. Not exactly though, but my hair gets longer because I started growing it out.
I hadn't actually noticed that in the track.
And then this one was particularly difficult. No row.
Oh yeah, no row
tail manual. And then I brought back the head manual.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and here's this one.
Oh yeah,
the world's slowest manual.
Yeah, this is something else. Just because you can.
And then a loop.
Does it actually sync to something in the track? Is there like a delayed beat or something that caused you to make?
There's a beat,
yeah.
So there's a transition right here, and there's a beat, and he does that. Yeah. And then this one, there's a little loop. And here's the long distance relationship scene.
Oh, yeah.
This was really hard to get right. I actually had a version where I did this like little hopping section with like dots, and I used hearts to cover it up, and it looked terrible, so I redid it. Oh, yeah. Look at this monstrosity.
That looks like a dragon or something. Oh my God.
Yeah, this is the rolling section, and it's like slow, fast rolls, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it almost like lags out on my monitor when I watched it on YouTube. My monitor's ass.
But yeah, you can see how many lines went into that one. Pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then this.
Shouldery.
Then this is sort of symbolic too, like a build up to the climax.
Mm.
And then this, like dun dun dun. It's like
the last few beats
I forget exactly what it sounds like.
Are so joyous. People go and watch it. Yeah.
The stall. I wanted to do it just on the hand, but I couldn't get it to balance.
Yeah.
So I just like cheaped out and did it with shoulder and hand.
But it works so well because it looks like you're both doing it.
Here's an interesting thing about this track. There's the this is where I sort of worked on all my clip art, and like the sunflower, for example, took me like several iterations to get one that I liked.
Yeah, I remember.
And I like could like stitch. Oh yeah, here's the Easter egg one. I kind of had them copied and pasted over here, as well as the I believe the pet store scene. Yeah, the pet store scene is right here too. So I just sort of had them up here in case I needed to use them.
Very nice. So, Olivia, of all the ways Sheldon could have possibly proposed, was this one that you'd ever really considered, or was this taking you like totally by surprise?
No, I did not expect this at all. Although apparently he says that he accidentally dropped a few hints throughout the year, but I guess I didn't catch them though. So yeah, I was totally taken by surprise. The whole night I don't know, I just kind of had this feeling that it was going to happen, but I had no idea it was going to be with a line rider track.
She was so nervous. So we were leaving the restaurant, and I turned back to her because I was accidentally walking ahead of her, and she was like, "Here," because she thought I was about to like drop down on one knee and propose. And then I was like happy because I realized I didn't spoil it, because like a month or two before that, she was like, "Oh, how are you going to do?" Or no, she didn't say that. I forget exactly how it came up, but she was like, "Well, are you going to use a line rider track?" And I was like, no.
I think I was kind of joking.
and then I said, "Well, what if I did?" And she was like, "Well, I guess it'd be okay." And I thought I had spoiled it at that point.
Oh, jeez. So
I never could have imagined the way that he chose to do it with the monuments and everything. Like, yeah. I don't know. I guess it's so different from any track that I'd ever seen before.
Have you watched many line rider tracks?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few. Josh usually shows me the one, or Sheldon, I guess. He always shows me the ones that he's really excited about.
Oh, awesome! So you had some kind of feel for what you were witnessing, I guess. Then. But...
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, like earlier in the night when we first left for our date to go to the restaurant, the song that I used in this played when she shuffled one of her playlists, and I was like, "Is that intentional? That's crazy." I thought it was really crazy. Mm-hmm. Crazy coincidence.
That's awesome. Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to talk about with this track?
The sort of the influences. I was sort of influenced by like Gao Yibao.
Yeah. Because
of, Well-Tempered Manual. It's sort of like the original influence for this particular, like the manual balances. He was sort of the first one to do it, like sort of like bottom nose and string manuals. and sort of like iPie and Ollie and Toivo sort of like pushing the envelope with manuals recently really kind of encouraged me to take manuals to the next level. We're going through the manual renaissance right now, TM, right?
Oh yeah, it's the year of the manual for sure.
It's the year of the manual, 100%.
I think we've lost your visual feed.
Oh, the visual feed? Oh, I turned off the screen sharing, but yeah, but we can, what we could do also now is if you want, you can potentially pull up the credit sequence on your end if you want to like thumb through the pictures.
Yeah, sure. Let's totally do that.
Oh yeah, I'll take some time to talk about my sort of world building influences. So, the number one would probably be Commander Coke in his track "Happily Ever After," where I got sort of the inspiration for the art style, and then of course like Rabbit and OTDE were sort of pushing me to, and then they themselves were trying to make tracks that could like elicit emotions, and they sort of spurred me to try to make a track that could elicit emotions, and I think I did pretty well because she felt pretty strongly about it, and as well as many people on her Facebook responded saying they were crying and while watching it, and you said too. And one of our friends sent a picture of her face after she watched it, and she had teary eyes. It was kind of funny.
That's pretty much how I was. I was just sitting there like, oh, Brett, hits you right in the feels.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share this credit screen. Yeah, because it's interesting. I was having this discussion with OTD. We're talking about vulnerability in tracks and how it's something that a lot of tracks seem to lack. So it's really nice to see, like guys such as yourself who aren't necessarily known for doing stuff like that, to then go ahead and produce something that just kind of shows like your range and, like adapting to new times, not getting stuck in like the same vein, and just, like growing as a creator, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took a turn in track building for sure. I went from making the hardest possible tracks to becoming kind of like a softie, honestly. Yeah. But I didn't let my technique go at the wayside. I still kept it strong in the manual sector.
Yep, yeah, exactly. You just added another layer. So let's go to. Oh my goodness! Wait, how many views is that already?
2831.
Jeez,
wow.
This gained 1,000 views in an hour. Because last time I looked at that was like 1,500 or something. My goodness. So as you can see, people, this is a very popular track with the masses as well. Oh yeah, I should ask you, Olivia, how did you feel about them being filmed the whole time?
Well, I don't know, I'm a little bit nervous on camera or being recorded in any aspect, I guess. So I just tried not to think about it whenever I realized that my camera on my laptop was recording me. But yeah, I'm really glad he did though, because it's nice to go back and be able to see my reaction and how the whole thing played out. Even though probably if he'd asked, I would have said no.
Yeah,
sure. I had recorded it from 3 angles. I recorded off my laptop, my phone, and her computer, just in case like one of them glitched or something. Like I was so paranoid about losing a recording. But I also had to get the recording on Olivia's laptop without her knowing. So like one day when she was at work, I don't remember when I did it, but I took her laptop and I made a folder in the library, like a hidden folder, and I called it Apple Security, and then I put the recording in there in a folder called like Firewall, and I renamed it to Do Not Open just in case she did find it. And I changed the file type from an MP4 to an MP3, so even she couldn't open even if she tried. Yeah, so there was multi-layers of protection, but I wanted to make sure she had like the full quality recording, because like I would be worried that if I put it on YouTube, it might buffer or something, and it would kind of ruin the experience.
Ah, I see. Yeah, totally. Yeah. What did you do with those cameras? Did you have them like hidden, or were they just like?
They weren't hidden very well, because unfortunately, like I had sat down to show it to her, and then I was like telling her the rules. I was like, you can't pause it, you can't rewind it, at least this time. And then I was like, oh no, wait, just give me a minute. I got to go check on something. So I left my ring in the room, so I had to run up to my bedroom and grab the ring.
Yeah, and I guess I got nosy and I started looking around and saw some of the cameras.
That's a bit
Yeah,
of a
she saw
giveaway.
the cameras. Yeah.
Sweet. So let's have a look at some of these pitches then. So oh yeah, we got the first two. So is this where do we get to the ones where you drew them? So is this the text you were referring to earlier?
Yeah. Back from after our first hangout, I guess, and then we started dating afterwards. Well, we'd hung out before then, but this was like the big day, I guess, whenever we started dating.
Sweet.
First date. And this is the first one with a video implanted next to it.
Very nice.
So the one on the right is actually a video of her feeding a duck. So that's kind of interesting. And shout out to iPie.
Yeah, I was about to say.
His editing was really good on this, and he really did a good job. And also shout out to JC, my boy Noah, for LRA, keeping it real.
Yeah, Noah, you let your fingers bleed for our enjoyment. And if you let us, we want to say thanks. So keep doing what you do, my dude.
We're still waiting on the blue multi-line update. This is the donkey scene. Second prom, totally intentional that it was on screen. So I had it zoom out a bit so you could see that monument again.
Yeah. So you seem to have a bit of a theme of going out of your way to like have these kind of elaborate setups.
Yeah. I stacked rocks, and I was actually sore the next day for moving all those rocks around.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Graduation.
That one's like really, really close as well. Like that's like exactly.
Yeah, I did use some. I will admit, I did use some programs. Like I used sort of like a power menu type program to try to like. Yeah, triggered, right? But this is 2K18, boys. You got to use the tools that you have.
Nowadays,
I may have traced some of these things, but I still stylized them to fit the theme. So,
nobody
it
makes
is what it is.
tracks anymore. We all code our tracks.
Yeah, no.
Confirmed.
Yeah, this was actually generated using LRA too.
Yeah, so it's all generated.
So this is okay, sorry, I just heard something from outside the room. Okay, so this is the university we went to. So the one on the right is a picture of the Sun Sphere, which is like a big monument in Knoxville. And on the left, that's the mascot for our school, like the mascot dog for our school. And Olivia was sitting next to it. So
sweet.
It was pretty cool to get a picture of that.
Nice.
This is a video of the cat we adopted, Tigger.
Oh, that's a little sweet little kitty.
And another one.
Obligatory.
And this is pumpkin carving. The phone background.
Yeah.
The wedding. Two-Door Cinema Club.
Very nice.
Oh, the first night mode part of this track. First and only, I suppose, where we got to see the solar eclipse. If you hadn't seen a solar eclipse, they're really cool, and there's one coming through the United States in 2024. Always plug.
What are these glasses you're wearing? It's just like the equivalent of the cardboard box trick, so you could stare at the sun.
So yeah, yeah,
pretty much.
They're like eye protection goggles, so you can like look at the sun like directly.
Yeah, that's pretty lit.
Don't look at the sun, kids.
Yeah, unless you want to go too woke, so woke you can't see, and then you can only see with the third eye.
It's a Christmas scene. Nothing's too special here, but Olivia always loves Christmas time.
Yeah, that's true.
Christmas time is always a tough time for me. Don't Dump December is hard on the old gut.
I can imagine.
And this is us being long distance. So the one on the left is a picture of her next to the sun sphere, and the one on the right was just a picture of me on Beale Street, Memphis, and says Line Rider Advanced. So if you haven't already, download Line Rider Advanced. I'm sure we can have Hanman link it in his video too.
Oh yeah,
there's a website for it.
In fact, every single comment, if you're going to comment on this video, make sure you share the download link to LRA and LineRiderAdvanced.com.
Share it, upload it to Pirate Bay. Distribute it. Do what you can.
Put it on
a CD and send it to China.
Put it on Pornhub. Whatever you got to do, people.
And this is the grand finale. This is the only scene that uses 1.5 or 0.5x lines because the two diamonds on the side were a little bit smaller, and I wanted to keep it accurate. But otherwise, I stick with the theme for the most part and only use regular width lines. But technically, it's not vanilla because of the multipliers. But this is LRA.
Yep, LRA. LRA is on its own level. And then, we can see the ring in that particular picture. Very nice. And we have you and Line Rider proposing.
Yeah, Line Rider proposed too. She's engaged to Bosch.
Yeah, but that's the real. This is just a cuckold deal.
Is that what I signed up for?
Yeah.
Yep. You're gonna have to get your own sled, and that will be the rest of your life, just following that boy around.
Yeah. Okay. So, and if you want to watch the actual track, it's at the very end of the video with no overlays to the video, so you can just watch it without having to have the screen obscured. That was like a big issue with Breathtaking Silence by LRG, where he had an overlay and it just triggered everyone because there was no version without it. But anywho.
Yep. So I think that probably wraps up this track talk that's been very in-depth. Thank you both for doing this, especially you, Olivia. We don't normally see non-Line Rider people on here, so thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for doing this on your part too. It's been fun.
Well, I need that content to keep this channel going, so I'm always going to say yes. But yeah, awesome, guys. And with that, I think we will conclude this episode. If you like this, make sure to leave a like or a comment or something below. If you hated this, then you have no soul, but, feel free to give your opinion.
Olivia knows that feel.
And with that, goodbye, and thanks for watching.
Goodbye.